Nathan is an accredited and experienced InfoSec professional specializing in data protection, compliance, and cybersecurity. 2 for 1, we call that. Nathan today is going to give an overview of data protection relevant to your business, as well as explain how this feeds into your organization's cybersecurity. I've had a sneak peek at the slides and you are sure to learn something from this one. So please do give a round of applause to Nathan as he heads up onto the stage.
Hi, digital people and real people in front of me. Does my clicker work? Let's find out. Click. Oh, it does. Okay, let's go back a minute. So, hello. I'm going to look at the camera. Everyone can see me. Everyone can hear me, I hope. So I'm going to talk today about the importance of data protection, compliance, and cybersecurity. Just a little bit. I'm going to focus it around tech companies because that's what we're all about today here. So by way of an introduction, I'm Nathan Hayes. I am the founder and CEO of Affinitas Consulting Limited. I am an InfoSec professional. I specialize in data protection, compliance, cybersecurity, and I'm accredited by the Chartered Institute of Information Security, or CISEC, to do such. Affinitas Consulting is a specialist information security consulting business. We work with SMEs to ensure data protection and cybersecurity compliance across the board, and our strapline is prevention, protection, and prosperity, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. So I'm going to clear up some terminology first. So because there's a lot of it floating around, and a lot of it sounds very similar, so we don't all know what it means. So I'm going to clear a bit of that up. So information security is the state of being protected against the unauthorized use of information. I've just noticed a spelling mistake as well. My apologies. That applies especially to electronic data or the measures taken to achieve this. Cybersecurity is the protection of computer systems and networks from information disclosure, theft, or damage to their hardware, software, or electronic data, as well as from the disruption or misdirection of the services that they provide. A little bit different. Information or data privacy is different again. This is the relationship between the collection and dissemination of data, technology, and the public expectation of privacy and the legal and political issues surrounding them, hence the GDPR. And data protection is quite simply the legal control over access to and use of data stored in computers or otherwise. We all have paper knocking around the office, I'm sure, and filing cabinets overflowing with it. So bringing all that together, at Affinitas, we work with organizations to help them implement strong information security frameworks. That includes looking at things like cybersecurity, information privacy, and data protection to make a strong, solid framework of which a business can run off. And it's sort of like a jigsaw, really. You piece it together to get your strong framework and policies in place. I'm going to talk a bit about psychology now, a little bit different. I was listening to an Audible original podcast by Darren Brown, and I was listening away, and this seemed to fit in to what I want to talk about. So I'm a little bit unrehearsed for my presentation today because this is a last-minute update, to be honest. So there's a chap called Greg Gigerenzer. He's a psychologist or a psychiatrist, one or the other. It's not my area of expertise, and I'm not entirely sure of the difference, to be honest. So he runs the Harding Centre for Risk Literacy and the Max Planck Institute for Human Development. And he talks about the importance of understanding risk to inform better decisions. This applies not only in our personal lives, in our business lives as well. So a speech by Greg entitled Risk Literacy, the Cement of Society, is about why we need to be more risk literate and understand the distinction between risk and uncertainty. He talks a lot about a risk illiterate society. That's built upon by an Israeli psychologist called Daniel Kahneman, who talks about how we fill our voids of knowledge with misplaced confidence in our intuition, which gives the illusion of control over random events. Obviously, we cannot control random events at all. He also helped coin the term a planning fallacy. The planning fallacy, and this is a quote here, is that you make a plan, which is usually a best case scenario, then you assume that the outcome will follow your plan, even when you should know better, because we don't know what could happen. And something we're all guilty of, I suppose. A little bit of terminology here. So an optimism bias. There's nothing wrong with being optimistic, of course, but we also have to be realistic. An optimism bias, forecasting based on best case scenarios, plus the inside view of neglecting the statistics of similar projects leads to the planning fallacy. So moving forward with risk is as individuals and business leaders, we need to recognize risk and uncertainty. We then need to find innovative ways of trying to deal with risk and uncertainty. And this ensures greater levels of success by overcoming our own self-confidence and our own illusions of control in situations where in reality we have none. Importance. This is the thing, this is the best bit. The bit that I like the most anyway. I'm not sure everyone will agree, but anyhow. So tech companies specifically, I mean the GDPR, the UK GDPR as it is now, as opposed to the EU GDPR, although they are both pretty much exactly the same, apart from a few technical differences, apply to all businesses, whether you're a sole trader or BT, PLC, or at the top of the FTSE 100, whatever, and anywhere in between. However, in my opinion, these are a few of the articles of the GDPR that tech companies should be particularly concerned, or not concerned about, it's the wrong word, but should focus on more than others, perhaps. So those are Articles 22, 25, and 35. Article 22 being automated individual decision-making, including profiling. It's a shame Jeremy's not here because this would be really good for him. Article 25, which is all about data protection by design and by default, and Article 35, which is data protection impact assessments. I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of these because I understand that not everyone knows as much as I might do about them. So automated decisions. As tech companies, you may produce software which is capable of processing personal data automatically. I'm probably not wrong, just saying. So Article 22 of the UK GDPR sets out specific conditions when it is and is not okay to process personal data automatically. I'm not going to go into huge detail about that, but that's one of the things. Article 25 about design and default. So again, as tech companies, attention should be given to Article 25 of the UK GDPR regarding data protection by design and by default. Essentially, this means that when an organization designs a new piece of software or a new processing system in any way, shape or form, that organization should implement technical and organizational measures from the very, very beginning, which are designed to implement data protection principles into that system of processing to safeguard personal data. Similarly, such systems should, that was a bit of alliteration there, tongue twister, by default only process personal data that is necessary and relevant for the processing activity. We then come on to data protection impact assessment. So this is relevant for any business that's looking to carry out new and potentially high risk processing activities. They should then perform a data protection impact assessment before carrying out that processing activity. This is to ensure the processing activity can be carried out safely and securely, effectively, and whilst making sure that personal data of data subjects is, the integrity of that is maintained at all times and security is strong and the data is safeguarded. The ICO, or the Information Commissioner's Office, for those who don't like or know acronyms very well, has also published in line, as well as the GDPR and the Data Protection Act and Freedom of Information Act, and there's quite a few other pieces of legislation dotted about. It's published a series of codes of practice which must be adhered to by businesses that they apply to. And these are detailed documents that explain specific areas of the law in specific context in much more detail than the GDPR or the DPA would go into. So a couple of those that are sort of available now is the age appropriate design. So if you're processing the data of children in any way, shape or form, this applies to you. And also the data sharing code. So if you're sharing data with other organizations, this applies to you. That applies to most businesses, to be honest. There are also some others in the process, such as marketing, journalism, national security, and various technologies. There's also a lot of information about AI on there as well, if you look at the ICO website. So to conclude, prevention, and coming back to this prevention, protection, prosperity thing now. Prevention, all organisations face issues in any way, shape or form possible. And having strong information security, in my opinion, and thus data protection, privacy and cyber security frameworks in place goes a very long way to preventing some of these issues from arising. So some of these issues can be data breaches, malware attacks, client complaints or ICO investigation, to name a few. The list is not exhaustive, of course. By having the prevention in place, we can therefore have the protection. So by working to prevent issues and mitigating risk and uncertainty, by applying our little psychology exercises, we offer protection to ourselves and our clients, for example, by protecting against ICO enforcement, which doesn't always mean massive fines. Protect against data subject compensation claims. Data subjects under the GDPR have a right to compensation if you mistreat their data. Protect your client's personal data and just generally protect your business or organization as a whole. Prosperity. By preventing issues and protecting your organization, you're on the pathway to prosperity. That's the way I look at it anyway. Any questions? If we've got time, of course. I don't know how we're like. What did I do? Oh, really? Was that like 10 minutes? Oh, cool. So a couple of minutes of questions, and then I've got a little bit of something to talk about afterwards, if there's any at all.
So we've not had any questions come in yet. We do have a few minutes, like everybody said. So if you do have a question, pop that into the chat. Until then, I'm going to ask, if I were setting up a business right now, which effectively I'm kind of coaching somebody else to do, what would be the primary concern around data security that they should be thinking about?
It's very difficult to comment specifically. We talked about this a few minutes ago, didn't we?
We did, yeah. That's the exact answer you said.
It is very difficult to comment specifically. That's quite a broad question as well, to be honest. But data protection in general and cybersecurity in general should be considerations when setting up a business. Depends on the nature of the business, the size of the business, how quickly the business wants to grow, what sort of processing activities are going to be carrying out above and beyond the sort of standard business stuff.
Yeah.
There's lots to think about. Happy to have a chat.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like a lot of stuff I don't want to be thinking about.
Minefield.
I'm wondering if anybody in the room has a question while we're waiting for anybody online. Look, you've stunned everyone into silence. I love it.
Excellent, and that good. Thanks very much. I have a little announcement to make as well, a little bit exciting. Before I make my announcement, on my way here this afternoon, I had an email to one of my personal email addresses telling me, it appeared to be from Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, informing me of a GBP £695 tax refund that I'm eligible to claim. Unfortunately, they do not have my credit or debit card information on file to be able to pay me this monies. And they very kindly asked me to click a link so that I could provide such information. I obviously didn't provide such information because I do not want to be subject to fraud. It was an obvious scam. And when you investigate the email address, an at hotmail.com email is not necessarily what HMRC would use. But not everyone would recognize that. So I've done a little bit of something. So Affinitus Consulting is the name of my company now. Previously, it was called Aquila Consulting. So I've got a business name, and I've got something that I want to do that. Microphone. I've got something that I want to do and want to achieve that is very relevant to data protection and cybersecurity and InfoSec, et cetera, but I feel should be given a bit more attention. So I have, I'm going to leave that up a minute as well. So what I've done is I've taken my old business name and turned it into a brand and renamed it a little bit and tweaked a few things. But I've got an existing logo and an existing idea, so hey ho, why not? So I'd like to introduce Aquila Training Solutions. Aquila Training Solutions will start life as a brand of Affinitus Consulting and will take responsibility for all training aspects of Affinitus Consulting, including face-to-face, online and e-learning in the following disciplines of information security, cybersecurity and data protection. And my data protection training will also include sector-specific courses, for example, marketing, tech, recruitment, and there's quite a few other areas as well. I'm probably going to do an AI course. There's the scope and the possibility really for this is endless. So I envision this Aquila Training Solutions becoming a company in its own right at some point in the near future. I just need a bit of time to get things off the ground, but that's about 20 minutes, is it? Cool. Can I do a mic drop, or are they too expensive?
Yeah, don't do a mic drop with that mic, my friend. Thank you, though.